Right now, Fox 5's Crime in the City. Here are the crimes across the 5 boroughs. We begin in Park Slope, Brooklyn, where the NYPD is investigating after a 32-year-old man was shot and killed.
Police are on the scene of a deadly shooting. We're told a 32-year-old man was shot and killed just before 4 o'clock this afternoon in Park Slope. It happened near the corner of Dean Street and 4th Ave. So far, no arrests have been made.
We now go to the Belmont section of the Bronx, where a police officer was shot in the arm while patrolling as part of an anti-gang unit.
Police sources are telling Fox 5 News that the search is expanding for the 2 suspects wanted for opening fire on a Bronx street early this morning. And there has been a positive development in this case. That police officer who was shot in the arm was well enough to go home. Dozens of officers gathered in a show of support for NYPD Officer Lee from the 48th Precinct, who continued to chase down his shooter even while wounded.
He's a hero. He's got 3 years on the job. He's been roughly a month now. He's been part of our public safety unit. They're tasked with handling violent crimes, getting guns off the street and such, and he was doing exactly, him and his partner, they did their jobs to the fullest tonight.
Just after 3 Tuesday morning, the officer and his partner, both in uniform, were in an unmarked car when a 16-year-old armed with a .32 caliber handgun allegedly fired through the windshield, striking Officer Lee in the arm. He and his partner placed the teen under arrest before going to the hospital.
Well, here it is again. A child has no fear of the police or the consequences for pulling the trigger on a police officer.
Police say there were more shots fired by 2 other suspects, one with a .380 semi-automatic handgun. More than 12 hours after the incidents, many blocks in both directions around 183rd Street and Prospect Avenue were still being processed in the sprawling crime scene.
That area is where we want our police officers to be. It's a known gang location that had problems in the past.
For residents, it's yet another reminder of the everyday dangers they face.
I'm just scared, that's all. I don't know, there's no safety.
That's horrible. They need to do something about this area. It's rough.
Now, police say that the public should have no doubt that these officers are willing to go into the most crime-ridden areas to try to give residents the peace and safety that they deserve.
Down in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, the NYPD is searching for 5 suspects after a 16-year-old boy was stabbed.
It happened around 4 o'clock this afternoon outside a laundromat on 6th Avenue near 49th Street in Sunset Park. Police are now looking for 3 men and 2 women connected to the stabbing. We're told the boy is in stable condition.
Up in Highbridge, the New York City Police Department are looking for 2 suspects they say engaged in a shootout.
Cops say it happened just before 3 p.m. Sunday at the corner of West 169th Street and Shakespeare Avenue. That's in the Highbridge section. Cops say the first person fired several rounds from the backseat of a Toyota sedan towards a person walking on the street. That person then returned fire. Both took off from the scene. Fortunately, no one was hit by the bullets. If you have any information, call Crime Stoppers, 800-577-TIPS.
Over in Harlem, a group of robbers threw kitchen knives, store products, and even a food display rack at 2 deli workers, causing thousands of dollars in damage.
The Harlem deli you see right behind me had to close its popular lunch counter for 4 days because the 2 workers who were beaten and threatened in a wild attack were too afraid to come back. Now they're back at their job and they're speaking out, telling us how terrible it was, and they're here even though the suspects who beat them are still on the loose. This wild scene inside the Eleganza Deli at 127th Street and Convent Avenue was captured in this surveillance video released by the NYPD. The trio of suspects ask for credit, then later demand money. When the counter clerk refused, they hurl a rack of food, then a large knife and other merchandise. Deli worker Jose Tapia shows us his bruise from where the knife handle hit him as they shouted ethnic slurs.
So the guy came like very tough. Say, yo, man, what the Mexican? Tell the guy to give me credit before I don't know that word he said, like before I smash.
He says he tried to talk them down, but it got worse.
I see the guy, he take the knives, the big knives, and he started throwing to me like like to, like I just protect myself over there.
In the chaos, they tried to stop another worker who was dialing 911 and chased him out onto the street. Co-owner Noor Zandani says they are all just trying to make a living.
What happened is scary. It's scary not only for them, it's also for me too.
Now, the store co-owner tells us that there was about $2,000 worth of damage. This happened about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He says he's just grateful that none of the men had any of their kids with them in the store at the time. If you have any information, police would like you to call 1-800-577-TIPS.
We now go to East New York, Brooklyn, where the NYPD is searching for the suspect who assaulted and robbed an 80-year-old man inside a subway station.
The NYPD says last Sunday around 7:30, this man went into the Euclid Ave station in East New York, and just outside the turnstile, he allegedly flashed a light and sprayed something into the elderly man's face. Investigators say he then put the victim in a chokehold and stole his wallet before punching him in the chest and taking off. The victim is expected to recover with minor injuries. If you can help identify the suspect you see in this video, you are asked to call police.
In the Unionport section of the Bronx, the NYPD is on the hunt for a man wanted in connection to a homophobic attack.
Police want to find this man. Investigators say yesterday morning at around 11:30, he walked over to a 25-year-old woman at 120 Hugh Grant Circle in Unionport and allegedly used an anti-gay slur before punching her in the mouth, knocking her to the ground. He then ran off on a northbound 6 train. The victim was treated by EMTs but was not badly hurt, at least physically. If you can help identify the suspect, you are asked to contact police.
Over in Bushwick, the New York City Police Department is looking for a man they say slashed a 14-year-old boy on a subway.
It happened around 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon at the Jefferson Street and Wyckoff Avenue station in Bushwick. Officials say the man bumped into a 14-year-old boy as they exited the L train. Police say this led to words being exchanged and the victim being slashed in the arm with a box cutter. That young boy was treated and released from the hospital. No arrests have been made, but if you have any information, call Crime Stoppers.
And finally, we end in Concourse Village, where the quest to get justice for Junior finally came to a close, as 5 men convicted of helping brutally murder 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz outside a Bronx bodega in 2018 were sentenced to prison.
Well, finally, justice is served in the gruesome death of Junior. It was caught on camera, shocking not just New York City, but the entire country, as millions of people demanded that these 13 gang members pay for what they did. One by one, the last of the 13 Los Sudes Trinitarios gang members accused of brutally killing 15-year-old Lisandro Jr. Guzman Feliz in 2018 sat in chains before Judge Ralph Fabrizio, with Junior's mother looking on.
All of these men, and I say men, took part in one of the most disturbing murders that this city and this nation has ever seen.
In June 2018, the gang members were trying to kill a rival in the Bronx. Thinking 15-year-old Junior was their guy, they chased the teen for blocks. Junior ran into a bodega to hide, but they dragged him out under the lens of surveillance cameras. Using large knives and a machete, the men stabbed away at Junior, leaving him to crawl to St. Barnabas Hospital, where he collapsed and died. Video of the horrific attack circulated in the city and nationwide as millions of shocked people demanded these gangbangers pay for what they did.
I don't want to see another mother never to lose his son in the way I lose my son, Junior. I don't want to see nobody go through that.
Junior's mother, Leandra, stood in court Friday asking the judge for life sentences. Instead, Daniel Fernandez, Jose Tavares, Gabriel Ramirez Concepcion, Danilo Payams Pacheco, and Ronald Urena each received 12 to 18 years, joining 8 others already behind bars, 7 which are serving life.
You may think that joining a gang is going to help you get money or protection, but in the end, it will destroy you.
Judge Fabrizio spoke directly to Leandra after sentencing the last gang member, telling her after 5 years of waiting for justice, this is the last page of the final chapter of a very long case. But he understands her and her family's wounds will never close.
I'm still waiting for the divine justice. The divine justice has to come for them too.
The judge apologized to Junior's mother, explaining that these gang members required so much security in the courtroom that she would be unable to make eye contact with her son's killers. Now, many of these members are not U.S. citizens, so as soon as they finish serving their sentence, they will be immediately and permanently deported.
That's this week's Crime in the City.